Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome to Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to SST on Apple Podcasts app, Spotify, and on YouTube. I'm here quickly to talk about some NBA takes that I got to get off my chest in this early portion of the season. If you're listening on the podcast app, stay tuned for some baseball talk as we put a pin in the Yankees season finally, with some aggravation as well as some thoughts on what the heck the Yankees are going to do to salvage this going into 2023, because it doesn't feel good right now. No, it doesn't. And also we touch on some MLB at large stuff as well in regards to playoff setup and all that fun stuff. But right now, it's time for me to give you guys some of my NBA takes after about just a week of basketball. But I have 5 takes for you guys that I find very interesting, that I'm ready right now to put my stake in the ground on. And I want to start off with none other than the New York Knicks. And I want to talk about Jalen Brunson, because this guy has solidified the point guard position, an absolute black hole for this New York Knicks team for so long now. And I think we actually found a point guard who is going to not just do his job, but do it very well. There is a caveat there, however. I think there's going to be some question marks by some Knicks fans and some people over the course of this season here, that they don't fully understand what Jalen Brunson does for this club. But if you've been watching him, and if you've been seeing what he's done from a statistical standpoint, from a control standpoint, from knowing what to do with the ball, when to be aggressive, when to share the sugar, spread the wealth, you should be absolutely thrilled with what we've seen out of the $100 million man, Jalen Brunson. I think there's something with counting stats that's going to drive some people confused or frustrated, and I don't think that tells the whole story. Because if you watch this guy over the past 2 seasons since he's become a higher level player, you know that he's not the type of guy who's going to come out here and all of a sudden start averaging 25, 26 points per game. It's not who he is, right? So right now, after 3 games, he's at 17.7 points per game, just over 3.5 rebounds, and 7 assists. It's an absolute perfect stat line for Jalen Brunson. Yeah, if he really wanted, could he be a 20-point per game guy, a 21-point per game guy? Probably. But that's not exactly what his role is here, because the Knicks' strength is in numbers, in what they're going to do and accomplish this season, right? If Jalen Brunson's out there taking 5 extra shots, he's taking away from the likes of Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, Evan Fournier, Cam Reddish, who's been a surprise, as well as Mitch Robinson, Derrick Rose, etc., right? So his job here as the point guard is to actually facilitate. And that was a question mark about Jalen Brunson coming in. His role in Dallas was not to be the facilitator. It was to be a scoring punch off the bench, with Luka Doncic obviously running the show so much as he does, as well as Spencer Dinwiddie being another ball handler off the bench for that team last year. And last year he was 16 points, 4 rebounds, just under 5 assists. That's not going to be his stat line this year, and I'm solely looking at that assist count. I do believe he's going to be a type of guy who is a 7 assist type of player here. And it's so important to remember with this Knicks franchise that the point guard position has been a disaster for almost all of the past 20 seasons. You get a little Jason Kidd action in there when he was old but doing the right thing. You get a couple games of Chauncey Billups. You get some Raymond Felton love in there for a hot minute, and some Jeremy Lin, right? Like, is that about it? Yeah, I think that might be about it. That ain't going to cut it. But what this guy has done so far in these 3 games, and what I expect him to do all season, is just play solid basketball, to continue to know when to push the right buttons, when to get to his spots, hit the little turnaround jumpers from the inside, shoot threes with a higher volume and the same efficiency. That is an absolute win for Jalen Brunson and these Knicks. So I don't really want to hear Knicks fans or fans in general saying, oh, you paid this guy all this money to average 17 points. Yes, yes, yes. He may be the best point guard in the last 15, 20 years of this Knicks team, and that's all we need. 17, 4, and 7 will be an absolute thrill. And more so, the people who think that's not enough are telling on themselves, because they're not going to be watching all the little things that he does from a physicality standpoint, getting into the lane, hitting tough shots, creating plays for others. It is truly something that Knicks fans are not used to, and it takes so much pressure off Julius Randle, off RJ Barrett, and frankly, even off Emmanuel quickly and Derrick Rose, right? Because last year and the year before, when this team was playing pretty well, it was often because of what Derrick Rose was able to do off the bench, or when quickly actually did get hot and make something happen, they looked like a real team. Without that, they looked like a bad team because the pressure was on Barrett. The pressure was on Randall to do everything all the time. That's not exactly who those two guys are, and that's not exactly who Jalen Brunson is. So this lefty trio is really looking like the type of solidifying trio to make this team respectable throughout the entire season. I couldn't be more happy about how Jalen Brunson has started off as a Knick. And I don't think you guys should sit there and expect 23 points per game because that's not who he is right now. But it's a great sign that he's shooting a couple more threes per game. He's up to 4 per game right now, still at 40%. This guy's always been a good 3-point shooter, just never shot a ton of them. And I think with this team around him, he's going to continue to get to 4 3-pointers a game. And it's going to be huge for the spacing and for him to continue to do what he does. So super pro Brunson so far as the Knicks point guard, solidifying what has been an absolute black hole over this franchise for a very long time. On to number 2. I'm going to talk about a rookie who is absolutely incredible. Paolo Banchero is a dude. I'm here to say it. I'm here to stick my flag in the ground. This guy is going to be the rookie of the year and going to be a problem for people for years to come. We're talking about the comfort of Jalen Brunson, what he does for this Knicks team. I'm already seeing a lot of those signs similarly for Paolo Banchero. He has already, as a rookie, walked into the NBA and been able to control the pace of the game. Now, has it been perfect for Paolo Banchero to this point? And no, it has not. He's not shooting the ball very well. He's not passing quite as much to the efficient standpoint as I think he can and will get to this year. But watching him move around the court with the size that he has and the fluidity and comfort that he has been stellar. This guy can get to his spots, hit tough jump shots from the mid range over just about anybody. He can attack the rim with speed and force, and he can make the right play constantly. And now it hasn't turned into wins yet for the Magic. It hasn't turned into super efficiency yet for Paolo Banchero, as again, he's not shooting the ball from 3 very well, but he is shooting pretty well from inside the arc. This guy is serious. And I'm telling you, you're going to look around the league in a couple years and you're going to see a dude who's going to be averaging 25 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 6+ assists. I think he can get to even a higher level than that in the assist category because he constantly is showing the proper feel for the NBA basketball game that is not normally found from rookies. This guy is huge as well. If you haven't seen him in person yet, and when I say in person, I don't mean physically at an Orlando Magic game. I mean watching him in person in an NBA game for a full game. Please do yourself a favor and go check this kid out because he looks like he belongs so much quicker than 97% of rookies that we've seen over the last 20 years. And I think we could look up at the end of this season and see a guy who we expect to be an all NBA level player maybe as short as 3 years' time. I'm talking Luka Doncic level impact almost for this guy, Paolo Banchero. I don't know if he's going to be a walking playoff berth just yet, but I am expecting him to be established in this league as soon as the midway point of this year, be the rookie of the year, be a 24 point per game scorer who's not jacking up crazy shots on a disastrous team all year. The best thing about Paolo Banchero is his feel. He'll get his shots when he has to, but he's constantly making the right play, constantly moving the ball in the right direction, getting to his favorite spots on the floor. It has been incredible to watch this point, and the 23 points, 7.5 rebounds, 3 assists is only going to go up, at least in the rebounds and assist column. He might end up around 23 per game for his rookie season. That's pretty damn good. So I'm putting my flag in the ground on Paolo Banchero Island, getting up all the stock that I've had since before the draft when I said he was the number 1 pick in my eyes. And I think he looks off the charts. This Magic team hasn't won many games yet, but boy, are they fun to watch between Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony, even Bull has been making a lot of plays. And Wendell Carter Jr., another really solid player. I think some of the wins are going to start coming for the Magic, but it doesn't even matter yet because it's all about Paolo and he is absolutely showing out with room to grow. What a beautiful thing to see the number one pick show up in the NBA and put on show after show after show. I can't wait to see where this kid goes. Number 3 on my 5 NBA takes in the first week of the regular season, I got to talk about the Brooklyn Nets because I want to tell people to pump the brakes a little bit on the Brooklyn Nets hate. Now, obviously, I understand why this team gets more hate than your average NBA franchise. The likes of Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and Ben Simmons, and now apparently Steve Nash, they are not a very likable bunch at this point in time. People have their problems with KD. I don't. Whatever it is, what it is. People have their problems with Kyrie Irving. It's obvious why that's a thing. People have their problem with Ben Simmons. Also obvious why that's a thing. But if this was any other player other than Ben Simmons, he'd be getting a hardcore pass for the first 3 weeks of this season. Hardcore. This guy hasn't played basketball in well over a year. He comes out into his first action of the regular season and only puts up 6 points per game, still getting his 7 or 8 assists. He fouls out a bunch. He's not really looking for the shot yet. We get it. We get it. But 99% of players who miss basketball for a year, they get 2 months of leash before they start getting crapped on by the media and other players and Twitter like crazy. This guy has been a successful basketball player for his entire career outside of a couple series in the playoffs here and there. 16, 9, and 8 for his career. All NBA level player, all defense, all NBA, all defense team, whatever, every single year. Can we give him just a couple weeks to try to get into a rhythm and flow with 2 new teammates who demand the ball and don't exactly move it that well all the time? Can we give him some time? Because I hear a lot of people trying to take victory laps on the Brooklyn Nets already, trying to bury them like they have no chance to figure this thing out. Guess who else is also just off a year-long injury? Joe Harris, one of the best shooters in the entire NBA. He's not playing up to snuff yet. He's not playing all the minutes he normally would. Seth Curry's still out. Do you know how much different this team looks when the shooting is right? You know how much different Ben Simmons looks when the shooting is right? Yeah, of course, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are 2 of the most talented shooters in the NBA, but they're not the type of players who are running off a crap ton of screens, catching and shooting constantly. KD shoots a little bit more off the catch than Kyrie, but Kyrie's not a catch and shoot type of guy. We know what he does when he starts cooking, and he's shooting the lights out so far this year. But I don't think it's fair to judge Ben Simmons and this Brooklyn Nets team after 3 or 4 games, knowing that they are a brand new team together, despite having a couple pieces back from last season. Joe Harris needs time to figure it out. No one's crapping on him yet, right? Joe Harris is playing 20 minutes a game in 2 games. He only has 5 points per game as well. Who's crapping on Joe Harris? Nobody, because everyone knows that he just missed basically an entire season, and it's going to take time to get into a rhythm. Now, it's easy to hate on Ben Simmons, but it's also easy to forget how successful he's been as an NBA player. Now, he has to get from 6 points up to about 15 points per game. That is without a doubt. But can we give this guy who just missed an entire season a month to get his bearing straight with a new team? I think that's more than fair for an all NBA level player. Yes, I admit it looks pretty sketchy so far for the Nets at times. And when you get 71% true shooting percentage at a Kyrie and KD in a given game where they score over 70 points combined and you lose, yes, that's a problem. The defense very much can be a problem this year for this team. But when he gets right and gets going, he increases the defensive floor a ton. And when he gets right and gets going, he helps this team score easy buckets in transition. There's a lot to figure out for Steve Nash and this Nets team, but I think it would be wise for people to lay off the victory laps, and they got to pump the brakes on hating on the Brooklyn Nets. After a couple games in a season, it's so easy to say, just like I told you, this team's trash. Ben Simmons sucks. He can't do this. He can't do that. What are you going to say in the end of November when all of a sudden he's averaging 13, 8, and 8? On his way back up to that 17 point per game mark he's been at his whole career. And this team's rattling off wins on a much more consistent basis. You're going to come out here and say, oh, I was wrong? No, you're going to shut your mouth and not say anything because you're embarrassed. It's too early in the season for a team with too many moving parts and too many new faces and returning players from injuries to bury them and say they're trash. So watch where you're going with the Brooklyn Nets hate, because this team is talented. They have some shortcomings on the defensive talent on their roster, but offensively, when they get going, they're going to be fun to watch and they're going to be hard to stop. So I'm saying this. Let's give it a month, maybe a month and a half, and then reconvene and we'll bury the Nets at the proper time if need be. All right. Now, on to my next take of 5. We're at number 4. I got to say this, and it's kind of obvious. It kind of feels almost silly to say out loud, but I just have to say it. Ja Morant is him. Got the tattoo and everything. He is him. This guy and this team deserve all the credit and all the praise in the world. And if I had to pick a team in the Western Conference that I would lock in to be a top 2 seed in the West, it would easily be the Memphis Grizzlies. Because when I watch basketball, I don't know if there's another team in the entire NBA that I feel more comfortable saying they know exactly who they are and they are all constantly pulling in the right direction. Could probably make some arguments about Dylan Brooks pulling in the right direction all the time, but whatever. He's a pretty positive player. Between Ja Morant and Desmond Bane, they got 2 dudes who are absolute scorers, dudes. And Ja Morant is ready for an MVP season. I don't know if he's going to get there. I don't know if he's going to be the MVP. But when we have that conversation at the midway point, well, let's be honest, at the 1-week point, the 8-week point, the 12-week point, the 3, yeah, we get it. The MVP conversation gets a little bit ridiculous in the world of basketball, but you better believe that Ja Morant will be in the midst and at the top of that conversation. And right now, Vegas is telling you the exact same thing. Yeah, he's off to a ridiculous shooting start. I get that. He's shooting 60% from 3 right now. It's not going to last, but you can possibly feel better that he's just going to be a better 3-point shooter in general. Maybe he will be a 40% 3-point shooter this year. Watch the hell out. This guy's been killing folks for 2 years now without a great jump shot. If that jump shot's no joke, stop. You are done. All of you defenders are done. You're already so scared for him to run right by you and just dominate you with athleticism and the gift he has around the rim. If you're scared of the 3 ball, watch out. Ja Morant could average 30 points per game this year. And with the rest of this team around him, you're going to see a team win 58 games this year and be a top 2 seed again and be that much more ready for the playoffs in 2022-2023 season. Ja Morant is him. He is here. And his tenacity combined with all that talent and the increased jump shot is going to prove why he might just average 30 this year and why he might just steal an MVP for himself. As Vegas is telling you right now, we did the NBA preview just 1 week ago. Just 1 week ago, we recorded it. And I said for my long shot, and by long shot, I didn't mean like plus 4,000. I just meant not the top like 3 guys who are under plus 1,000. I said Ja Morant. He was plus 1,500 today after 4 games, already up to plus 750. Cut in half were his are his odds, I should say, for MVP. This guy is going to have a special season, and his team is ready to go along for that ride because they are all constantly pulling in the right direction, playing the game the absolute right way with some depth that is serious. And Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., not even back yet. The Grizzlies are no joke, and they're going to be right at the top of the West yet again as we talk about the Warriors and the Lakers disaster and the Phoenix Suns if they could hold on and the Timberwolves and whatever the hell's going on with them. The Grizzlies are just going to keep winning, keep dominating, and demoralizing every single opponent they see. Except for the Dallas Mavericks. Apparently, the Mavs and Luka have their number. All right, last thing. Also, staking in the Western Conference at the top, New Orleans Pelicans will be a top 4 seed in the Western Conference this year. We're talking about depth in the West. We're talking about top end talent in the West. You don't have to look much further than a New Orleans Pelicans because right now, I am not sure that there's a deeper team in the entire NBA. I'm just going to rattle off some names for you guys real quick. CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Herbert Jones, Zion Williams, Jonas Valanciunas. Is there a deeper starting five in the NBA right now? Is there a better starting five that hits all the marks that you might need? You can probably argue they need a little bit more shooting in that starting five there, but with CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram who could get a shot off anywhere, and Herb Jones, who might come around a little bit more as a shooter. My God. Right. And then you got Zion Williamson and Jonas Valanciunas absolutely banging bodies down low and crushing people inside. Scary stuff. And you go to their bench, you get Jose Alvarado, really frisky backup point guard. Devonta Graham, spark plug backup guard who can get some shots up. Trey Murphy, who's a rangy long wing who plays good defense and can shoot the ball well. Larry Nance, the three ball's been getting better every year for him, who can play multiple positions on defense. And you get Jackson Hayes, who can hardly get in the lineup right now, who's a legitimate backup center in this league. You get Dyson Daniels, a rookie that you should be really excited about right now. You got Kira Lewis, another guard with insane speed who's not back from injury yet, but another guard off this bench if somebody goes down when he gets healthy who can make plays. All right, but let's focus on the big three here. CJ McCollum, 7 straight years of 20 points per game, and he ain't going anywhere. And all the facilitation that he didn't always get to flash super hard because Dame did have the ball a lot and he was more of just a scorer for that bunch. He's flashing it. The facilitation is no joke for CJ McCollum, and he's hitting that role with such tremendous stride. Right now, just averaging right under 7 assists and moving the ball, playing that point guard role better than any of us could have ever imagined. And what's always been the problem with CJ McCollum? He can't really defend very well for a backcourt player. Well, it sure as hell helps when Herb Jones is on the team. Brandon Ingram, the rangy mother, is on the team. And also Zion Williamson and Jonas are battling people down low, rebounding the hell out of the ball, and doing a great job. Right? So now you move on to Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram has been a 20-point per game scorer for a couple of years now. He is a top-tier wing facilitator in this league, averaging 4 to 5, maybe even 6 assists at some points of this season. This guy can put the ball on the deck as best as anybody with that height and get his shot off from any point on the floor. He'll be a 20-point per game scorer. And then you get to Zion Williamson, who's back for just a few games. I was just talking about how with Ben Simmons, you got to give this guy some time. He hasn't played basketball in a year. You got to give him at least a month to figure this thing out. Not with Zion. This dude's bullying people. He's blowing by people. He's still jumping through the roof. He's still got the double jump like nobody else does in the league. This dude's serious and reminded us very quickly what we missed out on last year with him not making it back. This is very Phoenix Suns-esque from 2 years ago. Cody O'Connor, shout out to him, said that on the pod last week on the preview. In that bubble season for the Suns, they really built some momentum. They really started to believe in themselves. They really started to feel like they were a team that can make some noise. And then what did they do? They got an all-star on their team who might just be he is a Hall of Famer. Chris Paul added to the team. Now, I'm not saying Zion is Chris Paul. I'm not saying Zion's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. He has to do a lot of things on the basketball court to get to that status. But he sure as hell plays like one. And when you get a team like that who made it to the playoffs last year through the play-in tournament and showed up and left a mark on the opponent that they played, which happened to be the Phoenix Suns, and then you add Zion, who's back, who is shooting the ball well inside, getting in there, bullying people as he does, man, we're talking about 3 people averaging 23, 22, and 22 points right now. I'd like to see the team who looks forward to facing them, because you need to have 3 defenders on your team who can absolutely ball. And guess what? If you somehow slow down Zion or he's out for rest on a back-to-back, good luck stopping Jonas in the paint, bro. Valanciunas can get his as well. You add him to that depth. This is one of the deepest teams in the NBA. I fully expect them to just trickle up the standings all year long. And at the end, just like I said with Memphis, we spend a lot of time talking about Golden State, spend a lot of time talking about the crappy Lakers in the play-in tournament, spend a lot of time talking about Dame Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers, who have been pretty frisky so far. And honestly, the Pelicans are getting their shine too, and they deserve it because this team plays really hard. They play really well together. And when you got 3 guys who can give you 23 points per night, man, that is not a fun team to play. New Orleans Pelicans will be a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. That's all we got. 5 NBA takes for you guys right there. Hopefully you enjoyed. Those are just some preseason things that I need to get off my chest. I had to put my flag in the ground on a couple things, with Brunson solidifying the point guard role for the New York Knicks, Paolo Banchero winning Rookie of the Year and becoming one of those dudes in the NBA, hitting the break on the Brooklyn Nets, and just holding off the hate for a little bit longer. Let's see it for a month. Let's give this guy who missed a year of basketball some time to find a rhythm. And then Grizzlies, Pelicans, absolutely no joke. They are not some flash in the pan, beginning of the season, hot start, good story. They are very, very good basketball teams and will be atop the Western Conference as the season goes on. So that's all we got on the basketball front. If you're listening on the podcast, stay tuned for some baseball talk right here on the other side. And then if you're on YouTube, check out Subway Sports Talk or click over in the video somewhere over here. I don't know, for where the baseball talk video will be as well. So thanks for listening. As always, I'm Pete Kennedy. Subway Sports Talk. We'll be right back.